All right, good afternoon, folks. We're getting started here with our Energy Bites. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Yudi Li. I met Yudi recently at the place that you'll be talking a lot about, right? Which is this eco-voltaic park that we're so proud to be hosting and pioneering here on the UC Davis campus. And what I learned that day was how instrumental Yudi has been to the success of that park. And so it's our pleasure to host him here at EEI. And with that, I'll give you the floor. Welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's my great honor to be able to present in this seminar. Yeah, and I'm currently a fifth-year PhD candidate in the energy graduate group. And I'm gonna do my dissertation pretty soon because I'm gonna graduate in June. I'm in the lab of the Real Energy Center, and I'm supervised by Dr. Rebecca Fernandez. And the major goal of our lab is to promote the techno-ecological synergy on all kinds of the solar parks, including terrestrial, the farmlands, kind of a grassland, as well as the water body, them probably as photovoltaic or something else. So we work on all kinds of the solar projects. And my major focus is on ecological restoration by incorporating the nature-based solutions into the terrestrial solar infrastructure to promote the sustainable land use, biodiversity conservation, as well as environmental stewardship. And because today I'm gonna be the only presenter, so I'm a little bit flexible in terms of the time, but I will try my best to keep my presentation within 20 to 25 minutes. Okay? Because I'm trying to present all of my 4 chapters the presentation, so the information could be this. So, okay. So the solar power has been expanding at an unprecedented pace, and now account for nearly 7% of the global electricity generation. Significant milestones in advancing toward clean energy and sustainability targets like the net zero emission. And in the US, the solar photovoltaic also contribute about 7% of the electricity generation and about 66% of the new capacity in 2024 or last year, more than any other energy source. There's a projection of steady increase around 50 gigawatts annually over the next 5 to 10 years at least. And the surge of the utility PV solar project represents about 46% of all PV capacity expansion, with a ground-based project requiring over 3.5 million acres of the land, or about 0.5% of the contiguous US surface area by 2035. So for example, 10 gigawatts PV solar development is estimated to occupy about 90,000 acres of land, and this number has to account for the area needed for the transmission infrastructure or other kind of supporting infrastructures too. So it's gonna be huge and it's slightly expensive. And during the construction of the solar panels, the degradation, like grading, leveling, trenching, vegetation removal, all kinds of these practice done by heavy machinery are all very commonly deployed and largely disturbing the soil and habitat. In particular, the vast majority of the California Central Valley, like the utility scale solar installation, are typically located in the rural croplands, scrublands, that's maybe low in population, but potentially valuable to wildlife. So if the implications for the local environment are not well considered alongside the solar farm expansion, it's really risk trading off the climate change mitigation and ecosystem degradation. And it can also cause the land use conflicts with food production, real shade appreciation, right? Along with a variety of other kind of the concern expressed by the local governments and communities, such as, again, the loss of the private farmlands, the runoff, the floodings from the solar parks, the noise and clear pollutions from the solar panels, and the electromagnetic radiation, and the collapse of the local business, especially the recreation, so lot of the concern. And actually massive number of the solar projects have been delayed or canceled because of the local opposition, which are one of the biggest obstacles for successful solar energy implementation. The research on the impact of the fixed tilt utility PV have been ongoing since 2013, revealing substantial shade-induced changes of the microclimate among the solar arrays. For instance, the incident radiation can be reduced by up to 95%, leading to cooler daytime temperature and sometimes improved moisture retention in both the air and the soil due to the shading over the day. But in the arid or semi-arid region with limited precipitation, like the Central Valley of the California here, the panel's shielding effects to intercept and redistribute the rainfall could actually reduce the water inputs right underneath the panel. So it kind of the mixed result, depending on where you are located, your solar PV configuration, and a lot of the other things. And this kind of microclimate shift can have profound implications for vegetation, like increased live biomass production and more divergent species composition across different kind of the mosaic of the microclimates, making them essential consideration in the solar farm planning and management. Despite the fixed LPV arrays accounting for 76% of the global solar demand back in 2018, the market for the tracking system is actually projected to grow by 32% annually through 2030. In the Central Valley, for example, the installed capacity of the single-axis PV panels at the utility scale is already 4 times that of the fixed scale. The tracking system generates more dynamic and less temporally uniform shading as they rotate consistently throughout the day to follow the sun's trajectory, introducing additional complexity to the plant's microclimate interactions. But research remains relatively limited compared to those on the fixed scale panels. So we conducted a year-long assessment in 2023 of microclimates and vegetation at the 13 megawatt UC Davis solar farm at the South Campus near the Raptor Center, which supply about 14% of the campus electricity each year. And since its operation in 2016, the vegetation management has mostly relied on mowing about twice per year. So noxious invasive weeds prevail all over the place because they didn't do any targeted or effective kind of the weed control measures at all. And after obtaining the research permission for the area outlined in the white polygons on this map, we delineated 40 plots, each measuring about 70 feet in length and 3 feet in width across 5 distinct micropatches. First is the no shade in the open space within the security fence, receiving uninterrupted sunlight throughout the day, serving as a cool. Morning shade cloud along the eastern panels, edges expressing shading in the morning. Afternoon shade cloud along the western panel edges, expressing shading in the afternoon. Morning and afternoon shade cloud between the panels, what we call interspace, receiving full sunlight in the midday only. And last but not least, full shades beneath the panel, receiving minimal direct sunlight exposure throughout the day. And these 5 micropatches can be further grouped into 3 border zones. First, First, within array covering over 70% of the utility footprint, near array 8%, and beyond array, which exactly is a no shades cloud for our control micro patches, 4% of the utility footprint. We found that the annual mean incident radiation measured as 2 feet tall was reduced by 10% on the near array zones, 70% on the midday sun clouds, but about 90% on the full shade clouds, close to the findings from the previous studies. Wind speed also dropped significantly near or within the array due to the barrier effects of the PV panels, especially when they're tilted back to like 46% on the full shade clouds. And in terms of the temperature, topsoil was unquestionably the warmest on the control because it's receiving the full sunlight throughout the day, but the temperature was unexpectedly higher within than near array. And plus, the air temperature remained relatively consistent across the micropatches. This seems to be counterintuitive because the more shade you get, the cooler it should be, but actually it's because the continuous heat dissipation from the solar panels, which can largely offset the cooling effect of the shading. Typically, the PV panel temperature can range 18 to 63 degree Fahrenheit above the ambient conditions, and we could literally feel the heat while we are working or doing research nearby, but it fades with distance. Solar moisture, on the other hand, was better retained within the array, particularly underneath the solar panel. And this water preservation effect was statistically pronounced April to June, or late spring to the early summer when the subtropics is becoming increasingly warmer. And we also observed the shielding effect of the panel in both December and February when the precipitation in the Central Valley was less ample than the other 2 months, like the January or March during the rainy season in that year. And of the 37 species identified on site, only 5 were native. And these are the top 16 most dominant ones. Well, they provide over 70% ground cover that could really help to minimize the soil erosion. They could really suppress the local biodiversity, encroach onto the adjacent croplands, and was no doubt richly unappealing. And many of those sun-loving noxious weeds were observed exclusive to the full sun clouds, whereas some of the shade-tolerant species, like the sisals, were mostly confined within the array footprints, leading to the distinct vegetation community across the 3 border loops, as highlighted by our linear discriminative analysis for the LTA. We also found significantly different species diversity and structure profiles across the 5 micropatches. For example, the moderate shading on the midday sun micropatch induced not only the greatest species richness of the weeds, but also the tallest vegetations, requesting additional attention of the site manager for high control to prevent the panel shading. So a more tailored approach that comes for the fine-scale microclimate mosaic is definitely necessary to more effectively manage the weeds on the PV panel project like the Yudi result. Okay, so beyond the clean energy production, the land at the utility scale solar can be leveraged to accommodate various kind of the agricultural activities like cropping, grazing, haying, beekeeping. They are known as agrivoltaic. They could also diversify the revenue stream for the solar developer or the landowner, as well as fostering the community advocacy. And there are also many solar developers are now actively incorporating nature-based solutions into their projects to create more biodiverse, resilient, multifunctional landscape as eco-voltaics. So apart from supporting the wildlife conservation, soil stabilization, carbon sequestration, co-locating with the grasslands can potentially lower the ground surface and PV panel temperatures. through the evapotranspiration process, improving the power generation efficiency of the PV panels. Since 2016, over 50 US states have launched this certification program for the solar polymer half test to boost their public image, gain the kind of reputation, earn biodiversity or carbon credit to be sold on the carbon markets, and access some financial incentive. But these are not yet happening in the California. In Massachusetts, for example, certified projects can receive a compensation rate adder of about $0.0025 per kilowatt hour. Not a massive amount, but over time it's add up. But the process of selecting appropriate plant species remain important too, compounded by site-specific factors hindering strategic revegetation. So at UC Davis Solar, we set up an experiment to test it out by setting up 30 pilot plots in 2021, totaling about 1.3 acres, using a series of the site preparation steps, no irrigation or fertilization at all. So to design our seed mixture, we employ a 4-step multi-criteria approach. First, all species have to be native, herbaceous, and more importantly, commercially available within 100 miles of the Davis to pass the initial screen. Second, each species need to exhibit at least 5 of the following 30 preferred traits, such as they need to be short statures, like below the leading edge of the panel when they're holding tail day, like they'll be better shade tolerant, right? And it would be great if lots of them could be retardants to fire, because the combustion at the solar farm is a huge concern by the solar developers. We are doing growing vegetation out there. So something like that. And third, all wildflowers should be pollinator friendly, representing diverse family with different colors and shape of their flower structures. At least 3 species blooming concurrently throughout the growing season to provide consistent supply of the pollen or nectar for the pollinator. And for grasses, they should be associated with at least one type of the following 5 key ecosystem services, such as they could be a good forage for livestock, they could be a good erosion control kind of carpets, or they could be a good fixer of the nitrogen. And lastly, we made some further refinements. We also keep the wildflower and grasses separate rather than blending them together, because there was solid evidence that the grasses in the California tend to gradually outcompete the wildflower over time. So out of the 26 species we seeded, 22 successfully germinated. Here are their photos when they're blooming. By the second growing season in 2023, the average canopy cover had already exceeded 60%, sufficient to prevent both the wind and water erosions on the soil. Well, the tree competition was still present. They account for an average of less than 7% of the total canopy covered. But we did encounter several challenges. First, the species richness of the wildflower and grasses started to decline rapidly since May, and this trend was also evidenced in the much less diversified color spectrum of the wildflowers over time, especially after June. This could be attributed to the absence or the rarity of our late season wildflower or grasses in our seed mixtures. And another challenge we encountered was that several of the most abundant natives reached their maximum heights way above the 3.5 foot clearance height of the PV panels. Without routine mowing, they could cast shadow onto the solar cells in the morning and late afternoon when the panels are fully healthy. But that's definitely a concern by the solar developers. But it's definitely not that we didn't want to exclude more short stature, warm season plants. Instead, many of them were just not commercially available as seeds in large quantities that we want, posing a conundrum for maintaining both diversity and the compatibility with the infrastructure at the same time. So one of the potential solutions is incorporating non-native but naturalized species that have been proven non-invasive. Or alternatively, establish long-term collaboration with the local nursery by finding at least a year ahead to ensure the timely and sufficient provision of the desirable seeds. And our lab are working closely with the Hash Grow Farm. That's one of the big supplier of the seed in the Central Valley regions. And yeah, we got a lot of the seeds right now that before I do the pilot experiments. So it also seems that less costly species, particularly those under $90 per pound, can outperform those above this price threshold. And this makes sense as easier establishment and seed production typically results in lower retail price. Right? So it's pretty obvious that for solar developer working with very limited budgets, prioritizing cheaper species, particularly with demonstrated success, when customizing their seed mixture for revegetation may be more cost effective to achieve both the ecological and financial sustainability. But unfortunately, research, especially on the solar farm underneath partial shade or full shade are still rare. Okay, so pollinators are playing a crucial role in food security and economic stability by contributing billions of dollars annually through the pollination service. At the same time, they're fundamental to the biodiversity and ecosystem resilience. But the population are in alarming decline and conservation efforts are urgently needed. And one emerging solution is definitely the solar pollinator habitat. Studies show that solar pollinator habitat promotes the pollinators spillover into the adjacent croplands, leading to about 1% increase in the crop yield within a 1.5 kilometer range and estimates annual economic return of about $6 million across the 3,000 sites in the US based on their modeling. But the structural complexity and the microclimatic variations introduced by the PV panels may also influence the pollinator flower interactions in an unexpected way. So we also explore this as the utility solar along with the vegetation survey over the past 3 years. In terms of the flower resources, our restoration plots dramatically outperform the unrestored control that were full of the noxious weeds, supporting about 40% greater flower richness and 22 times more expensive cover of the blooms of the wildflowers. And this translates into 6-fold increase in the pollinator species diversity and 4-fold increase in taxonomic diversity, respectively. And noxious weeds on those unrestored control offer a limited range of the flower colors and structure, notably lacking blue hues. So they are mostly yellow, yellowish, whitish, purplish, but none of them are in blue colors. And also they're lacking specialized shape, and most of them are just have an open kind of structure, lacking of some specialized kind of form, like the lupin. They provide more diversified structure of inflorescence, especially for those specialized bees. They also have very small display area, making them less visually and nutritionally appealing to pollinators. We also observe that the pollinator visitors on the unrestored plots plummet by up to 85% in the afternoon compared to the morning, as many of those non-native broadleaves have open flower only in the morning time, whereas the native wildflowers could provide more consistent blooming throughout the whole day. So that's another advantage of native wildflower in terms of providing the habitat, especially foraging habitat for the pollinators. Honeybees account for 72% of all the pollinator visiting on those on their wildflowers, on their flower structure at the expense of the last wild pollinators, compared to 58% on the native wildflowers, likely reflect the co-evolutionary history between the native wildflowers and the wild pollinators, especially this kind of the specialized bee species. Lots of them are only attracted by the sunflower and the gum plants we planted. And they are all like missing from the noxious weed or unrestored pump. So looking ahead, we have already scaled up the experiments across the entire PV solar facility on the southern campus, incorporating a broader range of the treatment in terms of the more diverse microenvironments, the seed mixtures, the maintenance scheme, as well as landscape features, because we also get access for multiple other solar projects in the Central Valleys, which lots of them are near the cities. And we're gonna do a longer term monitoring to refine our best practice. Ultimately, the goal is making utility scale solar more sustainable in the fight against the climate and the land use change. And if any of you are interested in visiting the site, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'll be happy to arrange a viewing tour. And thank you so much for all of your time and attention. I truly appreciate the opportunity today to share the work with you. And since I know a lot of our audience just doesn't have any ecological background, so I intentionally omitted a lot of the details, technical details. But if you would like to further discuss about the more specific, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I'm happy to take any question right now. Yeah. Sure, Ben.
Well, first of all, really impressive portfolio of research. I mean, it's incredible all that you've done over these, you said 4 or 5 years?
Yes,
Yeah. So not only is it impressive just all that you've done, but then also to pack that into a 20-minute talk is pretty impressive too. So really pleased that you were able to share this with us today. So, we might look at it more from the energy perspective. But one of the kind of things that you touched on was kind of maintaining a population of plants that will stay underneath the fire risk height for those panels.
Yes.
Based on lessons learned from your earlier research and now applied to the new kind of installation of solar plants, do we expect those plants to largely stay under the panel height to reduce kind of mowing and operating?
Yeah, actually, we are, currently is a database available for the maximum heights of most of the vegetation. Those native plants are constrained to the open fields, so underneath the shades, lots of vegetation may elongate their stem further, because they want to better compete for the sunlight, something like that. So especially under the partial shade condition between the solar panel, as I just presented, like there's results about the noxious weeds, but there are also the result I didn't show is showing that also the native vegetation will grow, the wildflower and grasses can also grow taller in between the solar panel. Because they are bounded by the solar panels on both sides, so they are among the highest concern by the solar developer, right? Because it really causes shading on the solar panel. So that's the reason why we're doing experiments. We do not know whether if in the database they say can grow maximally to 3 feet, but it turns out it might end up like 4 feet in the partial shade condition. So that's the reason why I'm just setting up the experiments, because there's really lacking of the database about the high profile of different kind of native wildflower and grasses in partial shade or full shade conditions. So we are definitely trying to incorporate as many of the vegetation that are short statures as possible, but it's not reliable because lots of those species we really want to incorporate that are short are not available as seeds at all. So that's kind of a bummer for us. So we have to do some kind of a compromise, including some species that potentially may grow taller than the leading edge of the PV panels that may cause the shading on the panels. But if that's the case, we would definitely advocate for more kind of the mowing happens too. That's another kind of the aspects of the our restoration project. So but it could be expensive. You know, the mowing gonna cost like $500, $300 to $500 per acres. So it's kind of expensive. So a lot of people suggest that we introduce sheep to do the grazing, and you know that's really help to accommodate the agriculture kind of co-production, and also save lots of your budgets. But the thing is that in the first couple of years of the restoration, it will be highly recommended to stick with mowing only, because the shepherd really do not have a good control on the stock density, and they may eat up all of our germinated emerging natives. So yeah, in summary, I think choosing the right species definitely at the beginning in the first place is important, but again, the database a lot of time is not suited for the partial shade, full shade conditions, so we definitely need to do more experiments to figure out the best kind of species mixture, and our lab is trying to develop an IP and collaborate with the local nursery as well as the soil developer to try to work on whether the seed mixture, the wildflower species we developed could work on different kind of the landscape and with different history of the land. And also, if there are lots of the species that grow way over the solar panel, we definitely would recommend more frequent kind of mowing, stick with your routine of the mowing plan. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Very good talk.
Thank you.
Lots of important material here. Is there, from your key takeaways, it sounds like there's a company waiting to be formed to provide the plant, the right mixture of plants, the tailored seed mixes, as you say, and some of the other services.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, the nursery, lots of nursery are collaborating with the solar developer, like the high school farm I just mentioned. They are collaborating with a whole bunch of the solar projects and trying to develop the seed mixture for specific to their site conditions. So they already have it, but now there's no comment that's specific to the solar product to develop the seed mixture for solar product. You know, I come from a business family. Most of my family members are doing the business. I'm only person doing the science. So they definitely gonna have the vision and insights provide for me. And my supervisor, Rebecca Hernandez, is also interested in developing the IP things and other stuff like the seed production of the native seed from our solar project, and to incorporate into the supply chain for the nursery, so something like that. So we are definitely thinking about the possibility of developing the business, but you know, it's still far away from our target. So yeah.
One other question, just 180 degrees reverse. Have you developed a simulation model for modeling the environment underneath these?
Modeling.
A dynamic model?
No, haven't yet. Yeah, haven't yet. Yeah, because it really needs the kind of the long-term monitoring, like especially if you were mentioning like the microclimate.
Yeah.
It's really required, you know, the long-term monitoring, like every couple of seconds, you know, to better feed the model, to better train the models. But unfortunately, we don't have the permit to do that because we need to collaborate with the site manager all the time because they want to sometimes need to do the mowing or some other things. Yeah, we do not have this continuous kind of monitoring or the data available to achieve that. But we are thinking about incorporating AI, like for the next 5 years, like incorporating the AI, like one is using the sound wave, you know, to try to, like, if the sensor could automatically emit the sound wave and every couple of the minutes, and they could potentially detect this vegetation structure. You know, it's kind of like LiDAR, the kind of things. Yeah, and we are trying to automate our monitoring because we now have the permission to do that. For permission to do that on the use case solar. So we are thinking about the possibility of having the AI and having the model, as you say, to fully makes better prediction in terms of what's happening on the ground underneath the solar panel and across different micro patches, micro environments. So yeah, and also including the trail camera, we are trying to automate it too. So we are actually collaborating with university. They are developing the code to do the AI kind of recognition of the structure profile of the vegetation as well as what wildlife species are present. So something like that. So hopefully we're gonna have this relevant models available soon. Yeah, thank you. Sure.
Oh, quick, kind of related questions. The
Yes.
first one is, how long do these plants last? Or do you have to replant them every few years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, we have perennials incorporated. They are the long living plants and they typically last for over 3 years. And we have like lots of the perennials incorporated into our seed mixture. But most of them are late season species. So to diversify the flowers and the botanical diversity in early season, we have to incorporate a lot of the annual species. But annuals, as you said, they naturally decline in their abundance, like in the second year. So we definitely have to incorporate the reseeding into our restoration protocol, especially in the first couple of the years of the restoration to ensure that they have to establish a seed bank to support them in the over the lifespan of the solar project. So it's costly, but you want to incorporate like have the diversity of the annual species too. Yeah, you will likely to do the reseeding in the first couple of years. So yeah.
And how does it affect the O&M costs for like?
Oh yeah, actually, we did the reseeding in the 2022, in the fall of 2022. The cost of the wildflower seed mixture is about $900 per acre. And for the grass mixture, it's about 1,500. So yeah, it's double the wildflower because they have larger seeds. So because I did a pilot experiment, so it's only about 0.3 acres, that won't really raise the cost a lot. But in terms of the large scale project we're now doing, yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be costly, especially you also want to do some site preparation too, incorporating the heavy machinery to do the rototilling, the mulching, and all kind of things. Yeah, I think it's really gonna be an actual cost budget. So yeah.
And then the last one was on the water, the runoff.
Yeah.
Is there any, are you looking into, or somebody looking into like managing the water, the water flow under the panels around them?
Oh yeah, you mean just on the soil surface or underneath?
So we had a slide, for instance, that showed, the panels
Oh.
direct the water away.
Yeah.
So, how does, maybe you could.
Oh, for sure.
Managing the flow of water under the panels. I don't think that's usually part of building the solar array, other than keeping the water away from, getting it away from there.
Oh, definitely. But the redistribution of the rainfall is cannot be avoided. Yeah. So we did find that the drip line, we call drip line, underneath the leading edge of the panel when they are fully tilted, is especially in the morning time. There's a higher kind of the soil moisture underneath it, but that amount of the water is not sufficient to cause any runoff, So yeah, I think that should be okay, but we didn't do any kind of soil hydrological kind of the survey yet. But lots of my lab colleagues are interested in doing that. They have the expertise, but I only measure the soil moisture, and it's higher underneath the leading edge of the solar panels. And yeah, it definitely could cause some of the heterogeneity across the array footprints. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
I have 2 questions. How often do they clean it per year, the panels?
Oh yeah, they typically clean it for the previous size managers, they clean it after each time they did the mowing, because yeah, when they are doing the mowing, they could stir out the soil and the dust, and they do the cleaning. And so what they do is in the evening, yeah. And previously they used robots to do it, and just attach the robot to clean it automatically to minimize the water use. And later on, I know some of them, like some of times they use like just drive in the water truck and spray the water panels, the solar panels. So typically they do it like twice or 3 times per growing season. Yeah.
So is there a difference of the soiling of the solar panels with native plants?
You mean?
You would have not, you don't have to mulch or whatever or tilt. Is there a difference of the level of dirt on the panels?
Yeah, I definitely like saw like difference before after the cleaning, but they are also the pollen and nectar produced by our wildflower. When bees, especially honeybee, are transport them, they could definitely land on the solar panel. As the pollen are pretty sticky, and it could happen. I mean, I'm not sure. That's what I'm gonna measure over my next couple of years of postdocs. That's what I'm really interested in, is that whether the pollen of the wildflower could cause a soil effect on the solar panels. But after the cleaning, there's definitely a huge alleviation of the soiling on the solar panel based on what I observed. So yeah. Sure.
Are there any end of life requirements for solar developers when it comes to like soil quality or vegetation, and could ecovoltaics help them achieve that or reduce their costs when it comes to that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, typically when they are doing the decommissioning, they are committed to, because I read a whole bunch of the EIR, like environmental impact assessment report. In their document, they say we are committed to restore the solar parks into what they are originally are. Like if previously they're the farmland, so they're gonna restore it to a similar kind of the like as the like farmland. But if previously there's a grassland, so definitely the restoration during the operation stage of the solar panel really help them save the money or something like that. But yeah, well, like when they're like pulling up the poles and something, they definitely do some disturbance, but still it could be pretty small area. So yeah, definitely if the previous landscape is a restoration, like the grasslands or prairies, then our restoration gonna be really helpful for them. But if the agriculture land, I mean, it depends on the landowner, right? If they really want to be restored to the original kind of conditions, yeah, they have to do stuff on the soil to make it like more farmland-like. So, yeah. Okay, sure.
Given you said that there's like the different areas of like shade and stuff,
Yes,
and that different plants prefer different bits,
yes,
could you do like your seed mix, so you have different seed mix for
Yes.
each section? Would that be a thing?
yeah, that's definitely for sure. Because we are, in my pilot experiments, I'm trying to incorporate one seed for all of the conditions to test out which one gonna perform better than others. And we did find there are some species that do extremely better underneath the shade, like the Phacelia, like the Clarkia. There are lots of species do better compared to the full sun conditions. So yeah, if we're gonna make advocations for the solar developers in practice, we definitely gonna do kind of tailor our seed mixture towards full shade versus partial shade versus full sun kind of a seed mixture for sure. We're gonna do that. And on our current project, we already have like the below panel seed mixture. We have the between panel seed mixture. We have all like 25 seed mixture. We are trying to test it out further. So yeah, I like seeing what's gonna happen, and because this is our first year, and we're keep doing the monitoring. But hopefully over the next couple of years, we're gonna see which species gonna perform really better underneath the panel and in the interspace versus in the open space within the security fence line. So
Any other questions? Well, thank you again, you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's offline. Wonderful job, my friend. Thank you.